Hi everyone, this is Raina, and this video is for those people who have their natal Saturn in the 7th house of committed partnership. Saturn is a planet that is considered rather challenging and certainly is not really what you would look at as a romantic influence in the 7th house, which has to do with marriage, the equivalent of marriage. So if you're living with someone and it's a monogamous or serious relationship, and other one-on-one partnerships. Saturn is connected to old age. Saturn is father time, so it deals with, longevity, the long haul, so to speak. It's about structure, it's about authority, it's about the government. The 7th house, in addition to being about committed relationships, is also the area of legal matters and public relations is the 7th house. And before I continue, I just want to give a shout out to advancedastrology.com for helping me compile this list. And, Saturn rules the 10th house of career, so we can always look to the house that Saturn resides in and maybe get like a little hint about the type of work the person is doing. So certainly public relations might be one area that you work in. Now let me get back to my list because I didn't write that down or type it out. Okay, so Saturn rules the sign of Capricorn. It also rules the sign of Aquarius, but it's not really connected to Aquarius in terms of some of the key concepts. And Capricorn is known as a serious sign. Okay. The 7th house is Libra's house in the universal chart. And Libra's ruler is Venus. Now think about that for a second. If you know anything about astrology, and you know about planets, and you know about signs, think about if you know a person who's a Capricorn and a person who's a Libra, and if they seem like different types of people. And if you know what Saturn represents, I just told you, and what Venus represents. Venus is the goddess of love and beauty, and Venus is considered a benefic planet in Vedic astrology, and Saturn is considered a malefic planet. And we could say good and bad, but that is really more like saying that one is much more of a bestower. Venus is more a planet that bestows things like money and harmony onto situations. And Saturn is this kind of like a strict teacher. And so the energies are completely different. You could kind of say that having Saturn in the 7th house is like having Venus in Capricorn. And if you know anything about Venus in the signs, you know that Venus in Capricorn tends to make a person attracted to older people, and also look to people who can provide them a leg up in their status in terms of like raising them, in terms of their standard of living, in terms of their status in society, because Saturn rules the 10th house, which can be your reputation, your hierarchy, where you are in the pecking order of society. And so when somebody has Saturn in the 7th house, I didn't see this on on that site that I just mentioned, but I thought I saw it somewhere else that, and I certainly believe it could be the case, that you may view relationships as a way to better yourself, and bettering yourself even in the material sense. And, we could call that a gold digger, but it's not just about money, it's about status. So I don't think a lot of people who have Saturn in the seventh house would go for someone who is a gang member who has like who earns a lot of money, but is not considered a respectable member of society, for instance. I don't think that would really work. It's not just about the money, unless there's something else going on, like Pluto, the lord of the underworld. That is, maybe you have Venus in conjunction with Pluto or something, and then you might, go for something like that. But basically, I would say that you might be attracted to somebody who's older and more established, and that makes you feel safe. That makes you feel that you can create a structure for your life, create a foundation, because that's what Saturn wants to do with a partner. And, I read so much that sometimes I wonder if I'm imagining things, but I thought I read one time that they said, don't get married until after you have around the age of 30, if you have Saturn in the seventh house, because you'll probably regret that marriage. And I think where they were going with that, or they may have explained it, is that if you marry young and you have Saturn in the seventh house, you may end up marrying somebody because you're looking for a substitute parent. Saturn, by the way, is connected to the father. So a woman, for instance, with daddy issues, who marries an older man because she needs to be taken care of, or she wants to be taken care of. She doesn't really need to, but she wants to. And maybe she felt unloved by her father, so she's looking for that kind of a substitute. And also sometimes if you have a hard situation in your fourth house, and sometimes your first house, which can indicate childhood, or even the eighth house, childhood traumas, Pluto, or Neptune in the fourth house, or Uranus there, something that is dysfunctional, or just, it doesn't have to be necessarily abuse, although that can certainly be the case where you want to leave the house as soon as possible. But something that is very unstable. So Uranus in the fourth house can be an unstable environment. Neptune can be an environment that's full of addiction issues or mental illness. And so the child just they can't wait until they can be old enough to leave, but they need an escape route, and maybe somebody comes into their life and offers to give them security, and they jump on that train, and when you get to be old enough, you become you don't need that kind of older person's guidance, because you grow into yourself. And this is in this house that can spell, I think, trouble in the relationship, when the person who is seeking a mentor no longer needs that person to tell them what to do, because they have become their own individual. So that's when the relationship can kind of either shift the power structure, and maybe if that person is quite a bit older, then the younger person is more in control of the situation. But an interesting thing about this placement is that even if you marry the wrong person, And according to this site, that can often happen. You might stick around, and there might be like a sense of duty. Like Saturn can be dutiful. So it's like, hey, I'm here for the long haul. Because again, it's dealing with being enduring, being, doing something in a permanent way, father time, once again. And so that can be sometimes problematic if the person really is unfulfilled, unhappy in that relationship. They may be really agonizing over it because they feel like they have to stay there. And by the way, I mean, a big part of this too is that Saturn is the lord of karma. So in the seventh house, you can attract these types of marriages that are karmic in nature. And there may be some kind of a soul contract, who knows? And maybe both parties have agreed to work out something by coming together in this lifetime, but it might not be easy. Saturn is, that's one of the reasons that the Vedics probably consider it a malefic planet, because it's not warm and fuzzy and it's not easy. So it's kind of like hard work that has to be done on an emotional level with another person. And this relationship might even be cold. And if you look at the type of relationship that I was talking about when I was using the term gold digger, that's exactly what happens. I was just thinking about this movie that I've seen several times called Magnolia. It's kind of like an art film and really good movie. And it was by the guy who did Boogie Nights. And one of the stories, I think they had several stories that were going on together, but one of them was about an older man who was, who had a TV show, and he had a young trophy wife. And, they were just showing him, he was sick, and he didn't have that kind of relationship with her anymore. So she wasn't, I don't think she was taking care of him. It was just really like, that horrible reality, when you've spent all your life using each other. She used him, but he used her too. So I'm not saying that this would happen with everybody with Saturn in the seventh house, that they would just be so calculating as to do this. I think you would have to have an afflicted Venus or something, maybe somebody who's really just having a hard time giving and receiving love, so they're looking for some other way to capitalize on these types of relationships. They don't see the value of having affection for people. And I would say that people who have been severely traumatized will typically feel like that, because they can't even fathom that there might be somebody who wouldn't consciously try to hurt them. And so again, you can see trauma through planets in the 8th house, 12th house, 4th house. Those are all water houses. And even the first house as well, like Pluto in the first house can be brutal too. And I've done some of those videos, so you can check out my channel. I'm sure that I have covered those with Pluto at the very least. I haven't gotten to Saturn with some of them. So the point being that a person with Saturn in this house may have trust issues as it is. And this may go back to the family of origin. What doesn't, right? except for past life stuff. And you know what? We really should hold that part up too, because with karmic issues, it may certainly it might stem from another lifetime. But in this lifetime, it's possible that if the person had a strict parent, someone who was kind of harsh with them, cold, they may have become quite self-conscious. And so when you're younger, you may have issues with being shy, for instance. And time is your friend, and time improves things, especially after your first Saturn return. So in your early 30s, you may start to feel a lot better, and your relationships may improve as well. Saturn can have fears. One of the big things with Saturn is the fear of being lonely. And that is kind of a paradox, because there's a loneliness with Saturn that you might even generate, because you may be afraid of opening up emotionally, being vulnerable with another person, and that will create a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because if you keep closed up, you're going to make it so that the other person can't really understand what makes you tick. You know, when we feel that we can share with another person some of the embarrassing things that have happened to us, some of the traumatic things, and we're not afraid that that is going to weaken us in some way, which being vulnerable does not do. It actually makes you stronger. Because really, when you think about it, what can somebody do? If somebody tries to use some of the things that you have told them against you as a tool of manipulation, then you have your answer that that person should definitely not be in your life, because they don't have good intentions, you know, and they're manipulative, and they're taking some of your weak sides or points, and they're using them as a weapon against you. So that wouldn't really be much of a loss if you found that out. So the point being that being vulnerable is an important part of cementing a serious relationship, because that's how you bond with somebody. And by the way, this does not have to be exclusive to marriage. This can be any one-on-one relationship. If you have a relationship with a friend, and you're spending time with them alone, that is going to be sometimes different than when you're together in a big group and everybody is hanging out. That's not really a good place for intimacy, is a big group. So the one-on-one situation can show, you know, when you have Saturn here, you might not have like a whole bunch of these types of people in your life, because Saturn can be quite restrictive, but the ones that you have, you may have these friends for life, and you take your relationship with anybody seriously, any partner that you have. I put down here myself, when I was talking about trust issues, I singled out Scorpio, Pisces, Taurus, and Cancer. Now, all three water signs, it's self-explanatory because they're water, and they tend to be kind of secretive, I have found. And they don't always share what they feel with others. And Taurus, I put down with trust issues, because Taurians are notorious for being possessive. And being possessive is a facet of trust issues, because you feel like, this is my property. I don't want my property going and having a good time with somebody else, even if it's, you know, a person can be jealous of their partner going out with platonic friends. they may feel threatened by that because they feel like, oh, what, I'm not good enough to be with you all the time, and not realizing that it's good to have that kind of an outlet sometimes, so that the two people, and especially, well, I mean, especially if somebody has already had a set of friends before the two of you got together, then, they may just want to maintain those friendships, and they want to have their own, life that isn't always connected to their partner. And I think that makes for a good relationship. And a Taurus person may not agree. They might find that threatening. And so just being able to believe that somebody can be faithful to you is really important. And it may take practice. In some cases, you may have to heal some wound that created a sense that other people can't be trusted, or if you feel that you're not good enough for somebody to stay faithful to you, those kinds of things, that might have to be healed. Let's see, did I leave anything out? Well, I said that you might not have a permanent partner until later on because Saturn can bring delays. But I remember hearing an astrologer say it might be a delay, but it always comes eventually, and that's kind of like father time, If you think about anything in life, that things can come if you just keep at it. Eventually you'll get what you want. But I do believe that the person has to be very, very much willing not to settle for less and to wait for that person. And sometimes it can feel like, okay, when is this going to happen? I'm 35 years old and I still don't have that significant other. Well, if you, for instance, if you want to start a family and things like that, then maybe you have to change your tactics or how you meet people. Maybe there's some kind of a thing that you're doing that is lessening the chances of that happening. But anyway, I hope that this resonated. And this is how I do my natal readings. I am looking at the different placements of planets in different houses, what signs they're in, and all kinds of good stuff. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.